My name is Kevin Duffy, and as you may have noticed, once a month on the third Wednesday, the mayor's office will be hosting the show, and the staffers up there will be trading off, so you get to learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. As I said, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm a lifelong Malden resident. A lot of people may remember me from being a school committee person for 2 terms, 4 years. Prior to that, I ran Healthy Malden for several years, and I've been involved in the community for quite a long time. What you may not know about me is that I grew up in the restaurant business, starting here in Malden, and then I went to college to learn about that and got involved with opening restaurants in several different places. Actually came back to Boston to open my own restaurant at one time, got sidetracked into politics with State Representative Chris Fallon, and ended up working in politics for a while. But in the interim, after that, I had actually gotten my MBA, so I have a background in business, and again, coming out of the restaurant business, I feel that's a terrific background. So that's who I am and what I bring to the table, and I do strategy and business development for the mayor's office. And so to learn a little bit more about that tonight, I'm actually joined by Malden's own Chris Caesar, editor of the Malden Patch. So Chris is going to ask me some questions to find out a little bit more about my job to educate you, the viewer, and then we're actually going to get into some of the properties around Malden. And then Chris did a great thing today on the Malden Patch, put up a survey, if you will, about asking residents what they would like to see come to Malden. And we can address some of those comments that they raised. So let me start by saying thank you, Chris Caesar, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. So we were talking before we got on. I've done a lot of these shows. You've done a few of these. We're actually a little short-staffed tonight. No floor director, no director out inside. Just Fran Matuccio manning everything. So we're gonna wing it, and we're just gonna go with it. So,
that's fine.
What do you want to start with? I mean, we've got a number of good topics we can hit.
Sure. Well, I guess first off, maybe you should tell people what it is you do. You're kind of a new position in the mayor's office, right?
True. True. Well, when the mayor came on in January, there were a number of positions he created that are more modern positions for a city like Malden and how government interacts. So one, we met Ron Cochran last month. He is the director of online communications. He does a lot of our social media. But my position is truly a liaison between the city government and the businesses here. And so a lot of my job, actually before I started the job, I went out and talked to a few people who were very good at this type of thing. And they said the most valuable asset I could bring to the job is shoe leather. And they're absolutely right. I actually go out to different parts of the city at least once a week, walk around to all the businesses. I walk in, I say, I'm Kevin from the mayor's office. I'm here to help you. Are there issues that you have that you want to have someone try to tackle on? And that way I can play point on trying to get a lot of their issues resolved. City halls in Malden and elsewhere can be a little complicated, a little labyrinthian, if you will.
Sure.
And so, having been up there and been involved, I know my way around. So I always tell people, bring your problems to me and let me run around. And then we can meet back together and try to get them resolved. And then, so that's the businesses that are here now. Help them expand, deal with issues they may have. But then I'm also constantly reaching out to businesses outside of Malden, trying to get them to come to Malden. And I think on the second part, when you come back at the end of the show, we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, are there any common threads that you hear from people, things or improvements that,
Starbucks.
Yeah, I hear that all the time, yeah.
Everybody wants a Starbucks. We're working on it. Well, some of the stuff that we did here in the first 6 months, the mayor and his staff, we've addressed with just this past budget cycle. We did do a reorganization of parts of City Hall. The parts that are relevant to me are really around the Inspectional Services Department. We've consolidated some things. Better, Mike? Thank you. We've consolidated some of the services into one office. So if you come, let's say you want to open a new restaurant, you can talk to the building inspector right there. The Board of Health is available for you right there. Now, so you can find out more about the site, the zoning, what's allowed, whether it's retail, wholesale,
sure.
Highway business, neighborhood business, all of that. So this is some of the stuff that we tried to deal, learning over the first 6 months that people thought it was a little complicated and not sure where to start. So by creating my position, you know where to start. The great thing is every day I get phone calls from people, every day, who say, I want to open a business in Malden. And it really runs the gamut. People who don't have a clue, but they've got a great idea and they don't know square one. I try to hook those people up with SCORE to get some advice on how to build a business plan and such. And then other people who are like, I'm on my 70th store. I think Malden's the next spot for me. Great. Let's come in, let's look at some sites and just kind of, they know what they want to do. I just guide them to get there. So it really runs the whole gamut. So that's part of what the reorganization was about, addressing those concerns that people have.
I see.
Yes.
And I mean, Malden's kind of an up-and-coming place now.
Thank you.
It's getting a lot of, absolutely, getting a lot of buzz. But there's still a lot of kind of vacant properties around, and maybe you could talk about the city's efforts in trying to alleviate that.
Well, we're definitely shopping all of these properties. My first few weeks on the job, really, I call them bankers and brokers. I met with a lot of bankers to find out what type of profile they want to fund. So when someone comes asking for a bank loan, I know who to kind of match them up with. And then brokers to find out what the available spaces are in the city. Brokers and landlords, and so what we've been trying to cultivate with them is a relationship where if a space opens up, they'll give me a call and they'll just say, hey, I've got this, my square footage, this is my parking, this is what I can provide. So when I get those calls, and having a little bit of a background and what I believe, a good sense for business, I can kind of get a sense of what's going to work where. So I can steer people and say, we can look at some spots. I've had plenty of people come in and I've walked them around the square, taken them down to Linden, over to Maplewood. We've walked around and said, you've got here, here, and here. I think you'd do well here. What do you think? And just work with them to get in. So that's what we're trying to do with these empty spaces. There are a few prominent empty spaces that landlords aren't really interested in a sense, smaller tenants or breaking it up. They're looking for that big home run tenant. Maybe they've got 20,000, 50,000 square feet. So it's hard to find a tenant of that size. But, you look at, you mentioned up and coming, Somerville and Cambridge and the prices they're getting for rent over there. I stay on the news every day. Obviously, this is my job, so I look at what the other communities are doing. And Somerville and Cambridge, I mean, they're looking at like $40, $45 a square foot. Malden's at 18 to 22, 25 to 30 up on Route 60, but still very much a bargain compared to some of those other places.
Sure.
So trying to reach out to those groups saying, hey, save yourself some money from your bottom line and come to Malden. And we've got these empty spots. So trying to hit those home runs for the owners. We don't really push anybody. We just try to play matchmaker. That's the way I look at it.
Now, are you bringing people into the city too, like consumer? I know you have the street performer program and all that kind of stuff to kind of revitalize downtown. Is that part of your position as well?
Absolutely. The mayor asked me to get well, first we started with the food trucks.
Right.
Because Malden is already there. We're a dining destination. There's so many great restaurants. We actually have another guest coming on in just a little bit who's one of my favorite restaurants in the city, Bossa Nova. But we have a true destination because the diversity of people that we have here, the second most diverse city in the entire Commonwealth, is followed by diversity in restaurants. And it's funny, when people look for houses now, about 20 years ago, their first question was always, what are the schools like? But now with the different types of populations that are out there, single people, married without children, or cohabitating, the first question is, what's the restaurant scene like? And so we've got this diverse restaurant scene with fabulous restaurants. So we're really doing well with that. So building off that, the mayor said, I want food trucks. We've got the Orange Line, Malden Center right there, which is 12 to 15,000 people a day, the fifth busiest on the Orange Line. And they come right out and they go right across the street, down Exchange or up Commercial, to Pleasant. Let's put the food trucks right there. So we created the pilot program. We put the word out. I just got another call today about a Jamaican truck that wants to come.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so nice. We're up to 4 food trucks. When this one gets approved, hopefully soon, will be 4 food trucks, and this kind of thing snowballs. So to answer your original question, along those lines, the mayor said, street performers. Let's get street performers. Because there's been a couple times we've come out on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, late, and there's just so many people in the square still. Now, most of the shops are closed, but they're going from one restaurant to another, and they're parking, and they're checking out some of the ones that are open.
Right.
Let's take advantage of that. Let's create the street performer pilot program where we can have people who are going from one spot to another stop and enjoy it. Or maybe they always come in and go to All Seasons. Everyone seems, from wherever they are, seems to know All Seasons in Malden. So maybe they come, they go to the Pleasant Street parking lot, go right across the street to All Seasons. But maybe one time they hear Len Tedder, a great Malden musician, blues guitarist, up the street towards Washington and Pleasant, and they say, let's walk up, see what that kid's doing. So they come up and they listen to some good music, and then while they're there, they're like, what's Massimo's? What's District 7? What's Phys Ed? And so now the next time they come back, they check out another spot. Sure. So it's a way to almost be like magnets and pull people around the square to make them aware of all the restaurants we have in that immediate area.
Huh.
Yeah. So we'll air it again and answer some questions.
Absolutely, I hope so.
But if anybody wants to open a business, call the mayor's office, 397-7000, extension 2009. We'll jump all over it and try to get you up and running. Be your own boss. It's the best way to live. All right, I'm going to shake your hand.
All right.
Fran, what do we got? All right, we're getting on down there. I don't know. There we go. We're going to the rolling. Good night, everybody. Thank you. See you next month.
Get out of the dock and into the zone.